Thank you for tuning in to another episode of The Girl Dad Show. I'm super excited today because I have, first time in The Girl Dad Show history, both the parent and the kid on the show today. So let's jump right in and get to know our guests. Abigail, do you want to share who you are and a little bit about yourself before we pass it over to Alex?
Yeah, sure. So I'm Abigail. I am 23, and Alex Fair. I'm currently graduating in May with my master's in clinical mental health counseling. I work as a therapist. I work in food service. I do a whole bunch of things. I'm currently writing research. I'll be published by the end of the summer. What else do I have going on? That's basically me. I'm a Scorpio, so that's...
Nice, I love it. That's a great intro. Alex, I have a bunch of questions for you, Abigail. But Alex, why don't you introduce yourself so we can get this interview started?
I'm Abigail's dad, or Abidad in some forms. I'm very proud of her. She's amazing. My birthday is 2 days off of hers, so I'm Scorpio Libra. Not that I usually state that. Trained as a scientist. I run a venture fund now. I like to help companies find their way through the maze that is trying to get massive adoption in healthcare, and it's going pretty good. I run a company called MedStarter.
Yeah, and how'd you get into becoming a venture capitalist, Alex? Can you walk us through a little bit more on that?
Sort of an accident. I mean, it's like my 10th career, but I had started 4 or 5 companies and was going to go crowdfund the 4th one, which I started when the kids were finally, when they went to school, to kindergarten, I think. Anyway, and so I went to go crowdfund it, and then after a little while, we saw that the companies that got crowdfunded were also much more likely to get venture funded or have exits and things like that. So I started reading books on how to do venture capital. I'd been around it a lot from doing the startups and from doing M&A work when I was a kid, but the actual doing of it is different. And so we've been doing it for 7 years now. It's the best job in the world, and we get to help lots of people that affect millions of people with their new ideas. And it's very it feels good to have a lot of impact and to be able to sort of just give a little help to a lot of companies getting going, that are going through stuff for the first time that I've been through 10 times, and ways you drive adoption. So it's super fun.
That is awesome. I love that you taught yourself through reading books. That's a really funny way of learning a new job.
And making a lot of mistakes too.
Yeah, I love it. Like a true entrepreneur, I love it. And then Abigail, how do you explain to your friends what your dad does for a living?
So that's always a really fun conversation.
Yeah.
I typically have a spiel that I go off of. Like, my dad is CEO of a crowdfunding company that crowdfunds medical innovations, and they help, with advocacy in a sense, because it's like you're putting new ideas out there onto a platform that maybe they wouldn't have had the same outreach and the same ability to be known about. And he goes all around the country, and he even goes to Colombia doing these events, and he runs these events. So I just kind of say that he's like CEO of his own company.
CEO of his own company. I like it. That's good.
Just do it up.
So you go small, and then you go wide, and then you go back to CEO of his own company.
Yeah, just that.
She is my girlfriend.
What business were you at, Alex, when you had Abigail? Like, when was that process happening? What business were you at? Was it number 2, number 3? Walk us through the timeline here a little.
So, believe it or not, I was actually in women's clothing at the time.
What do you mean?
The fashion industry.
Okay. I'm like, wait, what? That's awesome.
I just like to play with words. So yeah, so when the kids were little, her mom, who was a doctor, really wanted to, be a stay-at-home mom, and so I took a job running somebody else's company for about 8 years, and to live a nice lifestyle and things like that. And, provided a lot of stability when the kids were little. And, it was a really wonderful period of my life. But that ended in 2000, and I started doing startups again. It's a lot harder. It's like having another child, very demanding, things like that. So I had started a company called Fair Care, which was like a Priceline for healthcare. And then we weren't making enough money, so we went to go crowdfund, and the next 6 servers we needed accidentally started a crowdfunding site that took off. And so we just switched the team over to the crowdfunding site, and then pretty soon people are asking us to run these crowdfunding contests. When I say people, I mean like GE, Department of Health Services, American Heart Association. So we had 57 clients asking us to run contests. A huge one for the American Medical Association. But then it was like 5 years after that I figured out that, hey, if we had in these companies that were taking off after they won one of our contests or did well on the site. So, I mean, that's sort of like the evolution of how it went from stable inside job, doing operations, Six Sigma programs, things like that, which, I mean, I loved pretty much every job I've had. That it's just wonderful people to work with. But clothing, honestly, is not as impactful, doesn't matter as much to me as doing research or helping some new idea get out to millions of people.
Yeah, so just start with timeline here. So you took a CEO job in a women's apparel company.
No, it was vice president of operations.
Vice president of operations.
So about
in
a third of the people work for me.
in a women's apparel company to basically create a partnership.
Stable home environment.
Yeah, where a mom could stay home and be a stay-at-home mom. That's awesome. And then that was like basically through about 8 or 9 years old, Abigail. And then your dad started going off on the deep end on entrepreneurship again.
And that is a great phrase.
Can you?
Because,
Well, absolutely. Yeah, I mean, I'm an entrepreneur myself, so I definitely know the crazy you have to go do that from a stable job.
well, look, your partner, your spouse doesn't sign up for that necessarily.
That's right.
And I've seen more startup divorces. I never thought it would happen to me. But yeah, it's hard on the relationship.
It's also hard on the kids. I mean, because the reality is the kids don't sign up for it either. I'd love to hear your point of view, Abigail. What was your thoughts when your dad went from being the vice president of operations for this stable job to starting his own company?
Abigail, do not hold anything back. You're allowed to say that. Dad ruined our family.
We put her on camera. It's too late for that, Alex. We're already here. She's
I'm
gonna
just
love
saying
this
that,
back.
be honest. I can
know.
take it.
So I was about like 8 or 9. So it was like 2000. And I remember just, seeing everything kind of fall apart. And like I had a younger brother who's 4. And I remember when mom and dad would fight and how like bad it would get. Never physical, just, loud. And this was new for me. And I kind of took my brother. And we would go in my room and we'd play games and I would distract. Well, there's silver linings and everything, I think. My brother and I, as Spencer, are thick as thieves. We go to each other for everything. And it was difficult, I will say, because not a lot of people around me, like my friends, no one's parents fought. No one really, or if they did, it wasn't going to impact the kids. There was a lot of discrepancy in rules, I think, in the household. There were times where, well, let me just put this out here. I'm very stubborn. My dad is pretty stubborn.
Yeah, he is.
And
My mom is also very
We can't leave
stubborn.
your mom out of that because she's.
Oh, she's stubborn too.
Yeah.
Okay, you're painting the picture well, Abigail. I got it. I
We're all
was not
very
expecting the
stubborn.
mom to also be stubborn, but I got the gist now. You go ahead.
We're all very stubborn. And, I was like 13, like moving forward, I was 13. I don't know if like you've ever met an angsty 13-year-old girl who was emo and
have.
like black sheep, They said, like, specifically my dad, like, if he said, okay, you need to do this, I'd be like, I'm absolutely not doing that. Like, absolutely not. We would have fights about school and like math, specifically math. I thought it was cool to not like math. And I remember being downstairs at the blackboard and like he's trying to teach me like algebra. And I'm like, I don't need algebra. I don't want it. I don't need it. I don't want to be good at math.
Do you remember what I said?
And it was just very frustrating for everyone involved.
Do you remember what I
think
said at the time?
What?
Or my response to your lack of interest in math at the time?
Something about like it would like come back to me and like bite me in the ass.
At the time I said, you become what you pretend to be. So pretend to not be good at math and science and fall behind, and by the time you realize it, you'll be behind.
Yeah, and I'm glad that like I didn't let that happen and you didn't let that happen. And like I said you.
It definitely happened. You said to me several years later that, but now I got to catch up. But
Well,
did.
yeah, it happened,
You
but it
did.
didn't go into college. It didn't go into
I
the rest
agree.
of my academic career and my life. I mean, like, I'm graduating with a master's in science now, so it's like, obviously, it didn't go that far. But I think that there was constantly, like, tension in the household. Like, you could cut it with a knife. And for a while, I know my brother and I were like, oh, is this our fault? Is this our fault? But I think something that's really important, like, to remind your kids is, like, it's not their fault. It never typically is.
Yeah.
It's some adult stuff that's going on. And regardless, I remember telling Spencer, I'm like, no, you're golden. I'm like, you didn't do anything wrong. This is between them. It doesn't regard us. But I think it does.
Nonetheless, they get caught in the crossfire a lot and get weaponized, and such a thing as the Child's Bill of Rights, which is things that you're not supposed to do. And I think, if people listening are doing startups or having issues in the home, just always respect their right to be not involved in that argument. And I don't know that. I'm pretty sure we didn't succeed at that. But
Yeah.
but yeah, that's just definitely like a don't involve the kid.
Alex, I have to try. Oh, go ahead, Abigail.
I was just gonna say, then you have kids like me who I would insert myself sometimes.
Spencer, too.
As I said, I'm very stubborn. If I was like doing something and I didn't want to hear it anymore, I'd be like, can you just like stop? Like, please stop. I would come down and I'd start yelling. But I think that like, honestly, it depends on the kid. Like, obviously, it's not good to involve your kids into like thief problems like that. But if you have a kid that's like me, who is like, I'm not like dealing with this anymore. And I was like also like 16 at the time, so it's a little different.
Yeah.
Ultimately, it was Abigail, to Abigail's credit. She's the one who wound up mediating the final resolution.
No kidding.
Yeah. She came
How
back
did you
from,
do?
She came back from college. She sat her mom down, and I had been capitulating, and she sat her mom down and said, "Mom, this isn't good. This has to end." And that's when it really started to end.
So this was a few years ago?
It was like
2018. Yeah.
Okay, so about 5 years ago. Previous process, the start, Alex, was it actually because you wanted to be an entrepreneur again, or what was the root? What was the root start? Is that what you're alluding to?
Yes.
I'm curious.
I started Fair Care in 2000, and it was Priceline for healthcare. And I was getting a lot of traction, but it wasn't making a lot of money, hence the crowdfunding project. And then MedStarter takes off, and we're making money with MedStarter from day one. So financially, the family was doing good. But, I can't speak for the whole situation, but it was because I did not go back to doing a day job that my spouse at the time was very upset with me all the time. So she blamed my, life choices. But here's the thing. If you are motivated by impact and driven to do things, it's not that I don't like working for other people. It's that I want to do things that really matter to me. And this really mattered because we were helping hundreds of companies, get funding and drive awareness, as Abigail was saying. And it was really important to me. And it felt like what I wanted to do the rest of my life. I didn't want to go back to running operations for a clothing company or doing some sort of logistics job, things like that. And we had enough money. And I threw myself a retirement party at 38 because we had 2/3 of everything we needed to retire with as far as I was concerned. And I had 10 more years to make a couple more $1 million. And this seemed like a good way to do it. But it also made my spouse very upset.
Yeah, I could see how those decisions were basically the fissure. It sounds like that's kind of like where it started. How do you think about this, Alex, as you think about like being a dad and having your like adult daughter kind of like talk about this stuff? Like, what does that make you think and
We talk about it
feel?
all the time. I mean, honestly, she and her mother are both some of the most amazing, empathetic psychologists you'll ever meet. Right? And Abigail has talked us through situations in ways that just astound me. So we talk about this all the time. So I'm not at all surprised by what Abigail said. And I think we've done the work. I mean, I get along fine with her mom these days. I think we all survived this. And also, I think that life without hardship, without challenges, it doesn't make interesting people. And I have two extremely interesting children who I love dearly. I'm very proud of. But I think, does not kill you, makes you stronger. And yes, it was not easy growing up in that household. But like Abigail says, there are silver linings.
Yeah. Abigail, what do you think about as like success for you? What are you looking for? Are you like, what are some of the core things that you'd love to accomplish in your life?
So I really want to get my doctorate and in clinical psychology or a PsyD. I think my whole life goal is I have 3 things I want to do. I want to teach collegiately psychology. I want to see clients as a therapist, and I want to do research. I like having multiple things to do. So currently I'm doing 2 of those 3 things with my master's. I mean, the third one, teaching, I just think it's really important to teach the next generation about, the field that they're going into, and I enjoy teaching. I think that is essential for, especially in this field of psychology, counseling, it's still a blossoming field. So like actually right before I came on the podcast, I was writing a paper and it's on ketamine assisted therapy combined with Gestalt therapy. So it's like taking fringe new age things like that and putting the research behind it. I'm really into that kind of thing. I'm into the use of psychedelics for like therapeutic benefits, things that are more accessible rather than, using very like outdated medications like Thorazine for, treatment of things like schizophrenia because it's just not conducive to quality of life. And I think at the end of the day, I want to help people. I want to be there with them. I know what it feels like to feel alone. I know what hurt feels like, and I don't want people to be alone and feel like they have no one that they can talk to or turn to. I currently see 7 people for therapy, and I've been with them since about September. I'm still very new in this field. I really enjoy it though, and a big range of ages I see. My youngest client is 16, my eldest is like 50. And I also do testing for psychological and neurological testing.
So awesome.
I would correct one thing, Abigail. You are a teacher already. I mean, you teach me. I see you teaching your friends. So I think that while you're not being paid to teach at this point, I think that you've become a great teacher, especially compared to how you were when you were 12 and you'd make fun of me for not understanding the difference between pitch and tone.
Yeah, it's also really interesting how clearly you've come to the conclusion of what success looks like for you, at least for the next foreseeable future, which is fantastic. fantastic, because I could tell you right now, when I was in my 20s, I have no answer like that. That could be emphatically, I'll put money on that. I can almost guarantee that I had no answer close to that in my 20s. So that is very interesting. Alex, what do you think of success for Abigail and Spencer? What do you want from them? Like, what would you think?
I think better than food and, ride on a carousel, anything. I think what feels the best in my life, and I know that they know this already, is impact. When you do something and it actually has a wide-ranging effect. So that's when I say why I love what I do now, it's because I help one company with a watch that can tell your glucose, whatever, and that could be a platform whereby 500 million people could understand how to make themselves healthier through eating better by having real-time information. So that's just like one of the companies we invested in, and a company that spent a lot of time helping and, trying to push forward in the right direction. They're actually doing a pilot right now with 50 patients. It's going well. But my point is that success to me is being able to help 1,000 of those ideas get out further in market faster so that we can help everybody in the world live longer, healthier lives, or as long as they want to, which is becoming a reality, So working on medical innovation and helping improve how healthcare works and better treatments, better diagnostics, better care.
Do you want that for your kids as well, or are you saying that you want that for yourself, for the world that you're creating for your kids? You're fine. I'm totally curious as to both of those answers. So
what do I want for them?
Yeah,
I want them to be happy, and if impact like this makes them happy, then that's awesome. If you like building bridges, whether they're mental or physical, because that's what my kids are headed towards, right? And Abigail's mental health, and my son is doing engineering. And if you like to make things, if you like to, help people get through stuff, one of Abigail's biggest things is helping young girls with PTSD, doing research with that. And, so mission-driven life is wonderful. Even if they chose to go down a hedonistic path and made them happy, that's all I really want.
That's interesting. Abigail, what do you think about that?
I mean, I think my whole life I was always told I can do whatever I put my mind to. By both of my parents, but my dad would always be like, if you want to do this, okay, like that, whatever I wanted to do, that creativity or that idea I had was always fostered. And I'm really grateful for that, because I know a lot of people don't necessarily get that with their parents. And I've always been told I can do whatever I put my mind to. I never really saw anything. I guess like the biggest blockade is, just time. Of wanting to do everything all at once. And I cannot say how like grateful I am for that. Because I've met people who are like, oh, I've been shut down by my parents saying like, oh, I won't be able to make it in this. I won't be able to do this. I was never told that really. And that's something.
That's a gift. That's a gift from your grandmother. And that's what she always told us. And it is great.
I think being told that starting from a really young age is really impactful. And I know that it's a unique experience, and I appreciate it, because I've spoken to so many of my friends and my colleagues, and they were told like, oh, my parents think that it's stupid I'm going into mental health counseling, or it doesn't align with their beliefs. And it was always like, no, if you want to do that, if you feel passionate about it, do it. Do it.
One of the proudest things I can say, when you saw up at Binghamton when we did a Seder, we did a test for Abigail, and so I meet her friends, and they're repeating my standard tropes that I would tell her, and they would call them like Abigail's dadisms or something. Anyway, So the idea that this could be passed on through, that they had so gotten into her head, and that they were so part of her, that I guess that they inspired her. Very interesting, very smart friends. So to me, that made me very proud.
Yeah, it's awesome. And then as it relates to like success for the family now, as I don't know what the situation is currently, but can you guys walk me through what successful it's like? And is it working? What's good? What's going good? What's not? I'd love to hear from Alex first, please.
On the count of three, Abigail, you and I are going to say the first word that comes to us, right? Ready?
Like the family?
Just the first word that popped into your head when Young asked the question. So ready? 1, 2, 3. Spencer.
Yours.
No, but come on, Abigail. Didn't that occur to you that, success for the family is, and obviously I could say Abigail, but you're right here. But the one thing that, so when her little brother went off to college, Abigail and I, our relationship was messed up for a while, from like 13 to about, and so I had moved out when she was like 19, 18, no, actually 17. No, you're still 17. It was October. Anyway, but this is how we are. But so, And even after I had moved out, and she wouldn't visit. So then Spencer goes off to college, and we both think that we were raising him. We both think that we were taking care of him, right? He's 4 years younger than Abigail, and so he leaves, and then suddenly Abigail and I see each other like twice a week. I'd have to throw her out of my apartment at like 3 a.m. and say, Abigail, I gotta get some sleep, because once we get talking, I mean, we're like-minded, similar people.
Oh wow!
Yeah, we can talk all night.
Wait, this is after you turned 18 and you started reconnecting again, or
after Spencer went off to
After
college?
Spencer went to college, which was like 2 years ago, so I was 20, 21. It was right after I had essentially graduated undergrad, and I was back home because
With
I
our mother.
graduated. Well,
What-
Long Island. I was back
what-
on Long Island.
what happened, Abigail? Like, what was the switch that made you want to reconnect and build that relationship back again?
I think for me, like, I needed space to process things. And I think that I still was angry and sad and hurt because it's hard seeing like the two biggest influences in your childhood, your mom and your dad, fight. And it hurts to see that because you love them both and you know that like they've hurt each other, and you there's a level of guilt and frustration that comes with wanting to foster a relationship sometimes, because it's like you hurt someone that I love, like you hurt someone that I care about and that I still care about. But I think regardless of age, you're always going to want a relationship with your parents if they didn't do something absolutely heinous to you, you know what I mean? Like
That's
but I
infinity.
think
Right.
I was gonna
it just
give
depends on the
view
person, I
why-
think.
why I felt-
I'm speaking
I
for
felt-
myself. I'm not going to speak for like everyone else in the universe because that's not a fair generalization. And I was home, and there were a lot of reminders of how things were, and I think nostalgia kicked in, and I think I missed that relationship with my dad. And I think that becoming an adult, part of it is learning how to move forward and forgive and create new relationships, because one thing that happened 10 years ago isn't the end all be all relationship, especially when I was still growing as a human being. Like, my brain isn't fully developed yet, technically. 26, that's when it's fully developed. Like, I may or may not have
You're still evolving. And Abigail's, for whatever's worth, I mean, you don't know me from a stick in the mud, but you're going to keep growing and evolving, even without the medical 26-year-old thing. Like, I promise you,
Yeah.
if I was about my parents becoming a parent, and I'm still learning about my parents. They evolve as a 43-year-old man, right? Like, learning so much about my parents through just the experiences. So I never feel like, you have to, stop evolving and make something that's a decree forever. Keep learning and growing. I think that's amazing. And so can I ask though, I'm just very nosy right now because I'm very curious about this story, having both of you here. So were you kind of ignoring both parents or just Alex, just your dad?
It was just my dad.
Oh, okay. Well, like, spill the tea, girlfriend. What was that all about? Why just your dad?
Because I think my dad and I are very similar, and it led us to butt heads more. So we would get nasty, horrible, horrible fights. Like, I specifically...
About what?
Sometimes stupid things.
Really dumb,
Like, I remember
like dumb
one...
shit, totally dumb shit.
Like, he told me I didn't know how to vacuum or something like
As if ever vacuumed in my presence. Let's be honest.
I'm doing it wrong. No, I remember this. And I wanted to I think I threw the vacuum at you.
Right?
I mean, the thing is, like, I got into much more heated arguments with my dad than I did my mom.
Mm.
I did get into bad arguments with my mom. That did not happen. But it was also kind of like, I don't know, my dad and I always kind of fought, or we knew how to poke each other's buttons in a different way. I think that's because of the similarities more than anything.
So I think I summarized it well in a song that I wrote called "I Want to Die in February," which is a funny song. But I'll read you a little bit of it, but it really explains it.
It doesn't sound like a funny song.
I know it is. Funny. I want to
Abigail?
die in
Funny.
February in a not so sunny day. I want to die in February in some not so special way. All my friends will be around. Anyway, so it goes on. And I want my children to be sad, but I'll be satisfied because a boy only truly becomes a man when his father dies. It's a little dark. And to my daughter, oh so fierce, she's the one who cares. Her burning flame, it's so bright. Her anger's gonna flare. Let's nip that in the bud. Let's do that in the song. You know I always tried my best, but too often got it wrong. I hope you do it better. Make everything all right. And forgive me for my faults. Because when two are so the same, of course they're gonna fight. I know that of you I am oh so proud. Always know that's true. A better daughter I couldn't wish. My greatest gift to the world is you. Anyway, but I think that kind of summarizes it, right? I mean, we're similar and we're gonna butt heads, and when two people, as she said, that you care about deeply, love, fight, picking a side is a safe choice, and at the end of the day, I want her to be comfortable. So I realized that I was, not winning the battle of Abigail, but I also thought we're not fighting over Abigail. So I did not try to weaponize her. I tried to defend myself sometimes, but usually I just accepted it. But going back to why we glommed back together, after Spence left, I put a lot more of my time and energy into my son. It's not that I didn't love Abigail, but she wouldn't let me. So when he left, and I'd been trying to patch things up with Abigail for years, but when he left, I think that created sort of a vacuum for the both of us, because we both had done that. And then we realized, hey, there's each other again. So I was very happy that she started coming back.
It's a beautiful story. I love it. I have to keep prying though. I'm sorry. What are your general thoughts on divorce in general? And like any like pieces of advice for, entrepreneurs out there kind of going through this kind of problem from a kid and child perspective?
From a kid and child perspective, and also with the lens as a clinical mental health counselor.
Sure.
Divorce is extremely common. Something about 50% of marriages end in divorce. And if you're a child of divorce, it increases your chances as well of having a divorce because you didn't have that stability. I think being aware of these things and transparent, effective communication, which honestly is very difficult because no one really teaches us how to communicate our wants, needs, and desires. Doing that with your partner, because there's a level of stability that I feel is required in a partnership and a family. There's a level of security that's needed because I think it was like kids cost like $1 million. Like to have one kid that costs $1 million.
I think that number's higher now, but yeah, keep going.
Yeah,
even,
still
even
it's
more
horrifying.
if it's IVF.
Like that is horrifying to me.
Yeah.
I can't even fathom it. But I think trying to communicate your wants and needs and communicate to your kids that, this isn't about them. Like at the end of the day, they are not the problem. There was a change in someone's life plan or goals or something that they wanted, like the mother or the father, whoever, or the dad and the mom and whoever, in the parents, there was a schism in that relationship, and it had nothing to do because the kids are bad or whatever. And I also think the age at which it happens, for the kids, say they're young, 8 and 4, like my brother and I, that conversation's gonna look different than if the kids are 14 and 16. I'm not saying hold off on a divorce. Do not try to make ends meet if it's really not going to work. I think it saves a lot of time, energy, and frustration to rip the Band-Aid off. And in my own personal life, I'm horrified of divorce. I'm horrified and thinking that I have this person in my life who's going to be my forever person, and then just one day it's not going to work out anymore. It's scary to me. And also my partner, his parents are divorced as well. So, our odds are not in our favor, if we're talking statistics wise. But I think going in, being aware of your flaws and the fact that something that I'm aware of is I have a short fuse. I have anger issues. Knowing that and knowing that I have to step away and walk out of that, whether you're in a relationship or you're married, knowing that and how it impacts the people around you is essential for, avoiding divorce. And even if divorce does happen, how to mitigate the fallout.
Yeah, that's great. Thank you for sharing. Alec, just to switch gears a little bit, anything you would tell yourself before you started this business? If you give yourself one piece of advice, if you could go do that, would you tell yourself something?
Yeah, make sure you prove the revenue model first. I literally wrote a 54-page business plan before I started Fair Care. I analyzed the whole market. I thought that I had it all figured out.
Yeah.
But my original plan for how to make money with it, not so good. Later plan was great, and I still think that model worked, but I kind of got sidetracked and started doing other stuff. Yeah. I don't know. I mean, with respect to the fatherhood thing, maybe I should have just gotten a straight job, back in when it started, and life would have been simpler and the kids would have been happier. So, but I don't know if I would have. I'm not known for listening. Literally in my wedding vows, I think I wrote that I would love, Lonnie, and listen, and my entire side of the family just laughed because they know that I don't. So I think if I did tell myself something like that, I'd probably tell myself to fuck off. So
that's awesome. I appreciate you sharing that, and that it's also hard to gay life about things like that. I appreciate you answering that because you definitely don't seem the type to really fester too much on regrets, right? And trying to figure out how to make things better in the future. The little that I met you and know about you, you seem very forward thinking and bullish, right? And so appreciate you sharing. I want to ask a couple more questions just to kind of tighten the show here. I like to ask the same questions for all my guests, but I do want to hit some of those out. So I got most of the questions I want to ask, but I do want to ask what your favorite book is. I do like to know what everyone's favorite book is. So if you guys could both share what your favorite book is, that'd be awesome.
That's hard.
Yeah, there's so many. I mean,
there's so many. I read a lot. I think my current favorite book right now might be The Sphere. Yeah.
Oh, cool. The science fiction one.
Great.
That's a
Yeah,
great
that's one of
one.
my favorites. I'm also a big horror junkie, so
Nice.
I'm reading The Hollow Ones right now by Guillermo del Toro, and also Tender is the Flesh, which
Nice.
is written
Classic.
by, I don't remember the author's name, but I'm reading those two books right now.
Very
They're
good.
really
Alex, what do you got? What's your favorite book?
I'm so literary wise lately. I literally read
I
a
look right
book.
behind.
No, I read a new book every 37 hours for 9 months because my eyes went and I couldn't read. And then suddenly I found library audiobooks and oh my God. So having a lot of fun with that. But my favorite thing I've read lately, I mean, if you asked me before, I would have said something like Atlas Shrugged or something like that.
Hitchhiker's
But
Guide to the Galaxy.
Good
that
one.
was Grandpa's favorite. That was Grandpa's favorite book. But yes,
Yeah, it's a good
that
one,
lives
though.
rent free in my head forever. But
Yeah, me too.
my favorite book that I've read in the last 9 months, 10 months, was called The Spider and the Starfish. And it explains a lot of the things that I've been kind of doing, but also how the world works in a way that I hadn't really thought about before. So, for example, the reason the conquistadors didn't make it up into the Southwest, American Southwest, is because the Apache Indians were so unlike Montezuma that they could trap and kill and trick, the Mayans, Aztecs with. You couldn't do that to the Apaches because there was no leader. So if you think about how Hamas or ISIS or what have you work, or Wikipedia, it is successful against unlikely odds because they can always just reform and attack again. And I know this is a terrible thing to say about terrorist organizations, but the American Revolution succeeded for a similar reason, right? Because they did guerrilla warfare. Anyway, but if you apply this to business and in life in general, if you enable, an infrastructure to enable a lot of chiefs to rise and to do a lot of important things, it has a much greater likelihood of driving vast change. So anyway, it's an old book from 2011. I just found it the other day. A friend of mine introduced me to the idea, and it really just gave me a nomenclature to sort of explain how things can be done massively at scale against all odds.
It's awesome.
Which is exactly what I like.
Yeah, well, that's kind of what you're doing with MedStarter. It's very, very parallel to that because you're not just trying to create one, golden
Exactly.
ticket. You're trying
MedStarter
to
is a
create
very
a
good
system.
example
Yeah, trying to create a
of
system that creates
that.
more of them. Yeah.
Or
Awesome.
podcasts like this.
Yeah, let me bring us home. So, both of you guys, if you can share something that you guys do on your downtime, navigating and out the getting your masters and doing research and teaching, and Alex, when you're not trying to cover the world through digital innovation and investing. What do you guys do for fun? What's your downtime activities?
So I currently don't have a lot of downtime right now because I'm in finals. But I will say I really, really enjoy art and drawing and painting. You can't tell, but I have a lot of tattoos. So I really do enjoy getting tattoos.
Show your tats.
Yeah, show us one.
Show us the bunny in the.
So
Hey, while she's doing.
I have.
Oh wow, that's big.
I have.
Oh wow,
That's the
cool.
From and then I'll back up.
So you have tattoos. You don't have like a tattoo. You
I
have
have
like tattoo. You're like a full sleeve.
At least one is horrifying. I'd like.
That's
Which
awesome.
one? The snake or the skull with a knife?
The skull with the knife through it. When she got that, I was like, Abigail, really? She's like, I liked it.
Oh wow.
There it
Yeah,
is.
yeah, there it is. So
Thank you
metal.
for sharing, Ab.
So metal.
That's
And
fine.
yeah, and I do when there's a good show in town. Like I love heavy metal. That's actually how I met my boyfriend. Was at a heavy metal concert.
Oh wow.
I was crowd surfing and he caught me. So my dad and I actually have gone to a show together a couple times.
Wait, to a heavy metal concert?
Yeah, we went to two. We
Oh
went to-
wow, that's awesome.
I wouldn't know, like, what you can. It's not heavy metal. It was rock. We went to
I don't
Guns
know
N'
what
Roses.
you call that.
Yeah.
But yeah, this was actually at the Guns N' Roses concert.
Oh
with her brother.
nice. That's
Yeah, so we went to
so-
Guns N' Roses, and then we went to one of my favorite bands, Ice Nine Kills. It was really good. It was really fun.
Can I preamble this?
Yeah.
So when she was a baby, I used to sing her to sleep, and I used to sing her this song. Hush, little baby, don't say a word, and never mind that voice you heard. It's just the beast under her bed, in your closet, in your head. She still can't sleep. She made me take the doors off her closet every night, and she turned into a metalhead. So yes. So for her 23rd birthday, I said, "What do you want to do? Let's drive to Detroit and go see Metallica." And she said, "No, I'd really go see Ice Nine." And so this is also how she saved my life. So we're in the mosh pit. People are starting to crowd surf over us. I think we both got kicked in the head. We laughed. And someone got a little bit separated. But I had been fasting for like 53 hours. It was like after I think I was trying to go back to my low weight and it's a project for me. And I started to feel really bad. And so just as I reach out to Abigail to say, Abigail, I got to go sit down, I pass out in the mosh pit. This one, which you can't tell here, but she's not even 5 feet tall.
Ding.
Yes. And, sees this happen, and fall face down turns me over. She starts to do CPR, sees that I'm not dead, but it's really not clear because my eyes are open and I'm unresponsive. And then she stands over me, and she had bruises and cuts and just fought everybody off until security. And then, it wasn't working, and I guess she was getting overwhelmed. And so she screamed so loud, they stopped the music and turned on the lights. This is at the Hammerstein Ballroom.
Wow.
So how often do you say your daughter saved your life?
Well, not only that, but the fact that you have that much decibel control in your voice, you should have been a heavy metal singer there. There's your fourth calling, Abigail, right there. I want you to go check that vocal cord out on an elevator for me.
Saving my dad from stupidity.
Exactly. Piercing the veil through sound volume. Yeah. And then, Alice, do you mind sharing real quick? What do you like to do during your downtime?
Well, lately I've been writing poetry. They're actually songs, and then turning them into actual music. So I started doing some jam sessions, trying to find other musicians. But I'm not a musician. Both of my kids are great musicians. I don't know that. It's probably their mom's fault. So yeah, and I just went back to Manhattan. So all sorts of shenanigans here.
Yeah.
First time with family. Are you coming to Passover, Abigail?
Passover was literally last week. You know that.
No, it's a whole week, Abigail.
I'm working. I literally have work tonight at 5:50.
I'll take that as a no.
That's pretty much par for the course. But we are grabbing Spencer, and we're going up to... Anyway, so...
yeah. Well, I just wanted to say thank you so much for being on the show and sharing your story. This was super fun for me. It's the first time I've ever done this, and it was really, really enjoyable. And I appreciate your time and your honesty and transparency. And I wanted to thank you guys for being so vulnerable and sharing your story.
Thanks for having us.
Yeah, Young, you do a great job of this. Thank you.
Hey, thank you so much. We'll talk to you soon, okay? Bye, guys.
Take care, Young.